brought to you by Accenture Extended Reality. This is Field of View.
How do you see the industry changed across the years? Because right now we are not yet at, the big bang moment of VR. We're really, really close, but we are not there yet. But it seems that the pot is started boiling in a certain sense. How do you feel the sentiment has changed when you talk to your investors about VR when you started and right now? Has anything changed since then?
Sure. For us and a lot of the people that were like, seriously putting in the work, we knew this was going to be a long journey, right? We knew this wasn't going to be 3 years and everyone's going to have a VR headset, right? Like we knew this was going to have to be, we were starting at the beginning of like the cell phone revolution or the PC desktop revolution, right? Like it took a long time for us to get there. And we thought, this would be at least, 5 to 10 year journey, right? To get to where we need to go. And what's been really interesting is, it got overhyped. People were expecting this to be, the next iPhone next year. And it's like, when it gets overhyped, then you have that big dip when it doesn't happen overnight. But what's really interesting is, during the VR winter, that's when, companies like Beat Games made Beat Saber, right? And they're making, tens of millions when people are like, oh my gosh, VR is dead. And it's like, no, like clearly people are finding, a lot of joy and fulfillment from this. And also this was on the enterprise side, right? Like companies were putting in the work, doing the POCs, really finding the return on investment for these VR use cases, right? And we have to start from scratch because again, this is a whole brand new medium, right? We can't just say, oh, this is what works and let's just port it. And it's like, no, we have to develop from scratch and kind of find out what's really unique about it. And it was going to take some time to figure these things out. But clearly we found those use cases both in consumer and in the enterprise. And now we're starting to kind of see it like it has to be a combination of use case and the combination of hardware at the right price and right function and feature set, right? And I think we finally gotten there, right? Like I think it took a while, right? When we first started, we're like, what is VR? Is cardboard VR? Is 3DOF mobile VR? Is that valuable? Is 360 video valuable? And we've kind of like pared away all of that, like sifted through all of that. And now it's clearly defined. Okay, 6 degrees of freedom, head tracking, hand tracking on an all-in-one headset. Like that's going to be the mobile consumer play, the clear, winners of the category. It's not just, experiencing things in 360. It's actually interacting with things and moving around and having that kind of spatial interaction, engaging your visual memory, your spatial memory. Like all of those things are really what makes VR unique. And once companies have figured that out, then they're able to find that success. And really what's been interesting to me is like kind of just seeing like the waves of where it goes. I'll give you an example on the enterprise side, right? Like the very first successful, big VR use case was training. That's what VR was originally developed for, right? Like training in the Air Force. And we've kind of seen that come to fruition. Like, companies like Striver, Tailspin, Interplay Learning, they're doing great stuff in terms of like training people to do their real job better.
And Accenture.
And Accenture, yes, of course. I mean, honestly, Accenture is like powering a lot of this and doing the studies that get the real ROI out. But what's really interesting, though, it's like the next wave was when people are productive inside VR and AR and doing the work in these tools. And that's what we're starting to see. And so it's like, I'll give you an example on healthcare, right? So, it's really powerful, of course, to train surgeons, to make them better, to reduce the risk. But what's even more impactful in my mind is doing things like augmented surgery. We have a company called Proprio, and what they do is, you put on the headset, they have a pretty much like a depth camera, like a light field camera that captures the surgical site in 3D, like 3 dimensions. Then that fuses with the 3D scan data and lets surgeons do their work faster, more effective, less errors. And so it's
you're talking more about the operational side or the training side?
Because on the operational side.
So
surgical navigation during the operation, right? Like, so this is the thing, using the tools to do the work, not just training and then putting the tools aside and then doing the work, but actually doing the work in the tools. So to me, that's like really powerful, really impactful. It reduces the training time, augments the person, I think, and we're going to see a lot more of that. Like, Ford, they've been designing cars in VR using a program called Gravity Sketch. And it's like, it's not just training now, they're actually being productive, and that's the real value. And kind of how this translates also into what we see with Rec Room in the metaverse. It's fundamentally, I think, what one of VR superpowers is it really democratizes 3D creation. So not just 3D visualization, but working in 3D, creating 3D, whether that's designing a car for Ford or designing a game level in Rec Room. And so when we saw the creator tools that Rec Room put out, where people are creating inside the program in VR, it's been much more accessible. And so they have a much higher ratio of creators to players than like Roblox or like non-VR solutions. And so that's kind of showing off, some of that, being productive, creating, doing stuff inside VR.
Did you know you can catch this full episode of Field of View and more by subscribing on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever you get your podcasts to not miss another immersive technology moment? Subscribe today.